let's get started. So you're here today for the Discover WayPay, a powerful payment solution for your business with our partner WayPay. We're very excited to have you here today with us and with WayPay. So just a little bit about our hosts. So we are welcoming Paul Chappell, who is VP of Partner Services with WayPay, and I am Trista DeVries, Chief Operating Officer with the Canadian Women's Chamber of Commerce. So just a quick overview of us. We are the Canadian Women's Chamber of Commerce, and we are, of course, a national nonprofit organization that provides, advocates for women-owned businesses and their economic priorities. So what does that mean? That means that we provide support to our members through advocacy. So CanWCC is a voice in important policy matters impacting women in business, through connection. So that means that we connect our members to one another and to essential resources in the community and a national network of women's organizations. And finally, advancement. So CanWCC advances women's businesses with programs and resources designed to help you take action in your business. And this fits into that category. So we are here today to share with you an amazing tool that can help support your business, can help you take control of some of your finances, especially save you money. That's a big one. That's one of the reasons we like WayPay so much. So let me tell you a little bit about our guest. So Paul heads up partner relationships, developing, fostering, and supporting WayPay's growing set of strategic alliances. With 20 years of experience in financial services and lending, Paul brings industry-leading insight into the team to help strengthen our product offering for clients. His coaching, support, and leadership of the sales team ensure that our clients are kept up to date with not only the latest WayPay product offerings, but also industry and SMB best practices. So welcome, Paul. It's all yours. Take it away.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Trista. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining today. Just give me a second to share my screen here and get my presentation up for you. Okay, there we go. Okay, so yeah, welcome again. I think no need for introductions. Trista's already done a great job of that, but one more time, I am Paul Chappell, and very, very pleased to be here today and happy to have a few minutes to chat with you. Actually, I'm just going to back up for 1 second here before I actually jump into the deck, and just a quick introduction, a little bit of a rundown on the agenda for today, on where I'm headed with this, and then we'll get started. So going to run you through very quickly, hopefully, a handful of slides just to kind of give you an introduction to WayPay, who we are, what we're all about, what we're actually, some of the problems we're trying to solve for business owners. And then once I've gone through that, I'll jump into an actual demo of the platform so that you can actually get a look at it and get a feel for it. And I think that's to show it to you is a much more effective way than to have me just talk about it. So we'll take you through the platform and give you a bit of a quick demo on what that process looks like. And then from there, and as Trista mentioned earlier, if you do have any questions along the way, please do feel free to shout them out, whether it be through the chat line or otherwise, and we'll make sure to get them all answered either as we go through or towards the end in the question and answer portion. So, all right, so without any more delay, I will get into things here. So just to start with a sort of a quick introduction to WayPay, some of you may not be familiar with the company, but we have been around a little over 4 years now. So the company was founded in 2014. We are a Canadian-owned company. Head office is out in Burlington, Ontario. So essentially what we've done is we've developed software that is intended to streamline the accounts payable process for businesses. And we do that by connecting to basically any AP system out there. And in doing that, we're able to automatically reconcile payments sent to any supplier, whether they be local, international, and we can do that from any combination of bank and credit card accounts. So that's a very, very broad and high-level statement about what we do. But essentially, we've developed payment software that's automating the accounts payable process. And in doing that, we've been able to automate the reconciliation process for you as well. And we do that through direct integration with the accounting platform. So you're obviously going to see that in a lot more detail as I go through the presentation here today. But from a very high level, that's kind of what we're here to do. And then just a bit of an introduction to some of the relationships we have in place that allow us to do some of the things you're going to see here today. So first off, you can see across the top there, we work with all the major banks and credit card brands here in Canada. So WayPay essentially exists. We sit on the rails of the banking infrastructure in Canada. That allows us to work with everybody. I say all the banks, that also includes all the credit unions in Canada as well. So I don't have room on my slide for all their logos. There's too many of them, but essentially any Canadian financial institution we can plug into and work with. So that allows us to be completely bank and credit card agnostic. And allows us to, I guess, best serve our customers that way. So, and then below there, just a real, a couple of things that we like to call out that bring a little bit of credibility to what we're doing here. A few things we've been recognized for over the last few years that we're proud of. So you can see the Government of Canada has recognized WayPay for our innovation and the positive impact that we've had on the Canadian business landscape, and specifically in the fintech environment. The folks at Mars have also played a key role in helping us get to where we are today. So we've been recognized by them, again, in the high growth fintech space for having one of the most comprehensive set of resources in Canada. If any of you are familiar with Sibos, they're a global banking organization. They hold a global trade show every year. It happened to be in Toronto last year, and we were invited to take part in the FinTech panel there. Something we were extremely proud of. Basically every bank brand from around the world was there, and WayPay was extremely proud to have been invited to that. And then last but not least, I guess, we were also nominated in 2017 by the Digital Finance Institute for Canadian FinTech of the Year. We didn't win the award, but we were still very proud to be nominated. So just a couple of things we like to call out that sort of lend a little bit of credibility to what we're doing. So okay, so I mentioned a minute ago that we were founded back in 2014, and so our business has three co-founders, and one of whom, our president and CEO, Roberto Ramazar, is a chartered accountant here in Ontario, in Burlington specifically. He worked for KPMG for a number of years before purchasing his own practice back in 2007 or 8 it was. And it was really through a lot of, I guess, interaction with his clients that he started to recognize a need for a platform like this in the Canadian payment space. And so that was sort of where the idea of WayPay was kind of born. And then he very quickly teamed up with our other two co-founders who both have a lifetime of experience in the banking and payment space. And so between the three of them, the WayPay platform was born. But before they started to develop the platform, first they kind of went to the market and sort of asked business owners across Canada, accountants, bookkeepers, anybody that might be interested in using this type of software, and sort of asked them to give us an idea of where they felt there were gaps in the accounts payable space in the way the market existed at that time in Canada. And so as I move to the next slide here, these are some of the things that we heard from the market as we looked to develop the platform. So things like never having to reconcile, using a credit card to pay for your taxes, paying any supplier invoice anywhere in the world without going to the bank, batches of payments all at once regardless of type, not having to call suppliers to gather banking information, the list goes on and on here. So these are some of the things that we heard from the market, and some of these things may very well resonate with you in the way you're running your business today, depending on kind of what technologies you have in place to date. So from here, we kind of took this information and then we started to develop the WayPay platform. So the first thing that we like to talk about with our platform, and really this is kind of the secret sauce to what we do, and it's sort of the backbone that allows us to do a lot of the cool things that you're going to hear me talk about sort of over the next few minutes as I carry on through the presentation. So payment optimization, and so we talk all the time about payment automation. And I think people generally understand the term automation. That's it's moving things to digital practices and online practices versus the manual things that we used to do. Optimization though isn't quite as clear, and so we're trying to not only automate that process for the business owner, but also help them get the most out of making their payments. So make sure that you're doing things the absolute most efficient way possible in order to help your business succeed. So, and the way we do that, what we've done is basically we've broken apart the traditional funding and disbursement model. So, traditionally, funding and disbursement are very much tied together, and so by disbursement I mean a payment needs to be sent, and what's the method of payment being used to send it. So am I sending a check? Is it an EFT? Is it a wire? Am I some other form of payment? So that's disbursement. And then funding is, okay, where's the money coming from? Which account am I taking it from? And typically those two things are very much tied together. So my supplier, my vendor that I'm trying to pay has a preferred method of payment. And so in order for me to pay that method of payment, that limits my options in terms of where those funds are going to come from. If they only accept cash, then I'm going to have to send some sort of cash payment, whether it be check or EFT or maybe a wire, and it's going to have to come from a single bank account. If I want to use my credit card, I don't have that option. Similarly, maybe I want to use my American Express card. I hold an American Express credit card, and somebody doesn't accept American Express. They only accept Visa, or so on and so forth. But the point being, typically the disbursement method very much determines the options available to the buyer when it comes to funding. So we've broken those two things apart so that the supplier and the vendors can continue to get paid in their preferred method. But from the buyer's perspective, we allow full flexibility and control as to how you want to fund those payments without affecting how your suppliers get paid at the other end. So we kind of get in the middle, break those two things apart, and it gives everybody all kinds of flexibility. And you're going to see that in a lot more detail as I go through the demo here today. Okay, so from there, one of the things that we like to talk about, and before I get into talking about really, the WayPay platform and what we can do and some of the things that we can solve, I just want to take a couple of quick minutes here to talk a little bit about the landscape in Canadian business here, the way it exists today. So right now, in the header here, we're very much stuck in the past in this country still. So we rank third in the world, only behind the United States and France, in terms of the number of checks being written by Canadian businesses every year. And as you see below there, it represents 51% of small and mid-sized business payments in Canada today. So there's and that adds up to over 1 billion checks a year still being written here in Canada. So when you think about where we're at in 2018 and all the technology that's available to us in our everyday lives, I mean, your phone will basically run your entire life for you. Your fridge will order groceries for you if you want it to. Your watch will tell you when it's time to get up and walk. I mean, it's technology basically controls or can basically automate almost everything in our lives these days. But still, small and mid-sized businesses are stuck in this sort of archaic way of doing things and writing all these checks. And there's reasons for that, and I'm going to talk about that. But that's essentially where we're at here. And when I talk about small and mid-sized businesses, so it says 51% of those payments. Small and mid-sized business in Canada actually represent 99% of the Canadian business landscape. So As much as we do have, large market and enterprise businesses in this country, the small and mid-sized business owners represent 99% of the landscape. That's obviously the majority of it, and there's still over half of that being done by check. So obviously we're trying to help with that. The check pain is very real. And so these are some of the reasons that we've identified as to why people have been slow to adopt other forms of, or more efficient forms of payment, electronic forms of payment. So the first one being this perceived high effort and cost to switching to electronic. So obviously if I'm, paying somebody by check and I want to switch to an electronic form of payment, I'm going to have to gather some sort of banking information or wire details or whatever it is in order for me to be able to send an electronic form of payment. And so that may require, me to have to pick up the phone and dial every supplier that I have. And, that list, depending on my business, could be very, very long. And so that could be a very time consuming a project that I'm just not willing to get into. Another one being lack of appealing alternatives. So even if somebody decides they do want to explore other forms of payment here in Canada, it's very difficult. The way the Canadian banking system has sort of, neglected the small and mid-sized business space to a certain extent, has made for a lack of appealing alternatives. So a lot of the major banks, if a small business owner goes in, they either don't have an electronic payment option available for them, or if they do, a lot of times, the pricing is just to a point where they can't justify the cost. So, they've for years very much served large market and enterprise businesses in this country, and they've, for many years had electronic options available to them, but the small and mid-sized business owner kind of got left behind in that sense. So a real lack of alternatives there. And then finally, disjointed processes for substitutes. So even if I do manage as a business owner to switch over to some different forms of payment, likely there's still a separate process for every different payment type I have. So I probably still got a few checks, and that's one process. So I have my check run every week or whatever it is. And then, I've got some that I'm paying by EFT. And so I've got, my EFT file process with the bank, and that's a separate process. And if I have some international payments that have to go by wire, that's another process altogether. And if we talk about wire, to be honest, there's a lot of small business owners in Canada that if they're having to send wire payments, they're still physically having to go into the branch to do that. So, having to take time out of their day to drive to the branch and for one payment to pay one supplier somewhere else in the world, which could take, depending on where you live, anywhere from 15, 20 minutes at the low end of things to upwards of an hour. If you're in a city like Toronto where you can't go anywhere in 10 minutes, it's going to take you 15, 20, 25 minutes to get to, no matter where you got to go. So, you take anywhere from sort of 20 to 60 minutes out of your day to pay one payment to one supplier. And at the end of all that, the bank turns around and they're going to charge you, anywhere from $30 at the low end to probably $75 or $80 at the high end for the wire payment. So it's not only an inefficient process, it's very costly. So, but the point being, each separate payment type has its own process, and they're all disjointed from each other, and it causes for a lot of, extra work in the payables process. So how do we fix that? And that's where the software starts to come in. So first off, we start with the integration of the accounting platform. So I talked about us being bank and credit card agnostic. We're also very much accounting platform agnostic. So you can see there that we integrate with most of the major ones out there, your QuickBooks, your Sage, your Xero, Concur and SAP and Oracle. So most of the major ones, and I mean, the fact is we can integrate with basically any cloud-based software. And through that integration, it allows us to really start to automate this process. So from there, I'm just going to call out a few of the benefits that our users experience as they use our platform, and then we'll start to get into the demo portion. So very quickly, I think this goes without saying, the goal is to try and move to 100% electronic payments. 100% might be a little bit unrealistic for a lot of businesses, but ideally we'd help you get as close as we can. Pay for anything with a credit card. So I mentioned earlier about giving you all the options around how you fund payments. One of the really sort of cool features that comes out of that is the ability to use a credit card for literally anything you want within your business. So There's plenty of areas in the business where credit isn't accepted, and if you're a business owner that likes to max out on your card program for either the benefit portion, the points, or the cash flow benefit, and being able to extend those payments by 20 or 30 or 40 days or whatever your credit card terms are, then this may be of real interest to you. And so what we're referring to here is literally anything. So vendors and suppliers, whether they be here in Canada or international, that don't accept your credit for whatever reason, you can pay them with a card if you want to. But it also extends to things like payroll and lease payments and utility payments and CRA remittances and literally anything in your business. All these things where typically credit card isn't accepted, our platform allows for you to use that card anywhere you want. And I'll get into a little more detail on that as I go through the demo as to how it works, but that's sort of a cool feature that comes out of the platform. So, and to take that a step further, in giving you access to all your different bank accounts and credit cards and everything in one place, we're actually allow you to combine cash and credit if you want to do that. So you can actually consolidate funds from multiple accounts at the same time in order to fund whether it be a single payment or a batch of payments that are going out today. And so you can pull from 2 different credit cards and 3 different bank accounts or whatever it is you have going, and they can be different institutions and different credit card companies, and it doesn't matter. You can access everything all at the same time and pull from as many different accounts as you want to make up the funds that you need to satisfy your order. International payments, another big part of what we're doing. So payments to 130 plus countries around the world, and we've got over 100 different currencies available for foreign exchange right within the platform. Extremely competitive foreign exchange rates, and literally at the click of a button. So no more going to the bank, no more paying costly bank fees on exchange. It's literally as simple to pay somebody in another currency in some other part of the world as it is to send an EFT across the street to somebody here in Canada. So you'll see that in a moment as well. 9 different payment methods available. So regardless of how the person at the other end prefers to get paid, we can accommodate. So, check, wire, ACH, EFT, credit cards, virtual cards, pre-authorized withdrawals, email money transfers, whatever it is they prefer, we have it. Next day pay is available. So speed of pay is a big sort of a big feature for us right now. So at the risk of taking too much time here, up until very recently, everybody in our space in dealing with the Canadian banking system was basically on a kind of 3 to 5 business day turnaround from beginning to end. So you come into our platform and process a payment order, and it's going to take 3 to 5 business days to turn that around. And that's just due to the fact that when we go pull funds from a Canadian bank account, the bank will deliver funds within 24 hours, but they can come back and reclaim those funds for up to 72 hours, and it causes companies like us to have to sit on those funds for 3 days before we can actually release them. So us and all of our competitors have been in the same boat in that sense up until very recently, but we've been able to sort of separate ourselves from the pack and make some strides in this area where we're now able to offer next day pay. So if you're able to come into our platform and process an order prior to 11:30 a.m. Eastern time, and we're pulling from a Canadian bank account and delivering the funds by an electronic form of payment, then we will actually deliver to the supplier the next day. So we've been able to shorten it, and we're the only people in Canada that can do this right now. So this is something, that's why I wanted to take a second to call it out. It's very important to what we're doing, and it's something that we're really excited about. And you can see there that we're actually headed very quickly towards real-time payments. So we're hoping for towards the end of 2018 and maybe early 2019, but we're working with the folks at Payments Canada to bring real-time payments to the Canadian market. And that will literally be, so you process an order right now and your supplier gets paid right now. Okay. Multi-level approvals and account permissions. So that's your approval workflows. So, checks need a signature by the boss before they leave the building, or they need 2 or 3 or 5 different people to sign off on the check before it leaves, or whatever kind of payment it is, not necessarily check. So we can automate that entire approval process for you, and you'll see that as well. and then industry best transactional pricing. So not only are we trying to provide operational efficiencies here in automating everything for you, but we're also looking to save you some money on your banking costs as well. So I think we can talk pricing towards the end, but you'll find that our pricing is extremely attractive as well. Okay, so talk a little bit about how this works. So you simply come to it's single sign-on integration. So you come in, you can sign in with your accounting platform credentials. So whether you're using QuickBooks or Sage or whatever it might be, you come in, you click on sign in with my QuickBooks, you put in your QuickBooks ID, and away you go. And that will create a WayPay profile for you that instantly syncs up with the QuickBooks platform. So it's that simple. And then once we have that sync in place, we can then start to import approved bills and invoices out of the accounting system and bring them into WayPay, along with the supplier info that goes with those invoices. And then you, as I talked about before, you can securely connect all your bank accounts and your credit cards, so you have access to everything in one easy place. And then after a payment has been made, and I mentioned this before as well, we've actually automated the reconciliation process as well. So once payments are completed through the platform, WayPay will then feed that information back into the QuickBooks platform, the Sage, or whatever it is you're using, and automatically close out all of those journal entries and reconcile everything for you. So for whoever's keeping the books and doing that as a manual process today, this is a huge, huge time saver for them. Okay, so enough of me talking about this. Let's take a look at the platform. And I guess, are there any, I could pause here and take a couple of questions if there are any, and if not, I'll just keep going.
Perfect. So I'm not seeing any questions from anyone yet. Now is your time to jump in if you do have any questions, friends. If not, then we will proceed to this lovely demo.
Okay, no problem. I'll just carry on in the interest of time, and if questions come up, then feel free to shout at me.
Okay, sounds perfect.
Okay, perfect. So as you can see here, guys, so we're looking at the WayPay sign-in screen now, and I wanted to just start here intentionally to show you how easy it is to create the account. So as I mentioned a second ago, I click on sign in with my Intuit ID. It will prompt me for my QuickBooks login information here. I put that in, click sign in, and this will now link the two platforms for me and create my profile. Because I've been in here before, it's not going to ask me for the authorization to share the information. There would be one more screen there if this was my first time in, but you get the idea. So just like that, I'm into my WayPay profile. And as you can see here, this is now linked to my QuickBooks platform. From here, what I really want to show you with this demo here today is how easy it is to import some invoices from QuickBooks, set it up in a payment order, fund those payments, and then get those payments out, and just sort of how easy that process is. But before I jump into that, I'm just going to point out a couple of real quick things on the dashboard here. So I talked a lot about, up to this point, the different bank accounts and credit cards and everything that you can use here. So you can see here, I've got my two WayPay wallets that are instantly created for me. This company is very cash rich, apparently. They've got a lot of money in the bank right now. But there's a Canadian dollar wallet and a US dollar wallet. As you can see, you can deposit funds into these accounts and hold money there if you want to. They are bank accounts. But you certainly don't need to use them. You can use them if needed, but you don't need to use them. So as you can see here, we can also attach, I've got my Visa, my TD checking, my MasterCard, my RBC checking account. So I can directly access all of these different accounts and move money to a supplier without having to put it into one of these WayPay wallets first. These are only here to use if I need to for some reason. Okay, so, and if I want to add another account to this list, I simply click on add a bank or credit card. If it's a bank account, I click bank account. It's going to prompt me for the correct information for my account. I put that in there. There's a pre-authorized debit agreement that I scroll through and sign off on, signature here, and away I go. And that will attach a new account, and the process is the same for credit card. And then once everything is here, I can then start to make payment, obviously. So You see up here, it tells me that I'm attached to my QuickBooks platform. Right now, I've got 7 outstanding payables sitting here in my WayPay profile from previous. So these are bills that would have been imported on a previous day, and for whatever reason, I wasn't ready to pay those yet. So they're just still sitting there outstanding, waiting for me to pay them. And then I've got this sync button over here. So when I log into WayPay, it won't automatically sync with QuickBooks or whichever platform I'm using each time I log in automatically. It's going to wait for me to tell it to sync so that I've got it set up to only pull over what I want to come over. So you can see I can put a date to it if I only want it to go back, you know, a couple of days, or I want it to go back 3 months or whatever it is. As soon as I click this sync button, it will sync up with the QuickBooks platform, and it will then pull over any new invoices that are there within the date range that I've given it here. So let's do that now. I click sync. It's going to link up with QuickBooks and pull over any new invoices. And I was in QuickBooks today, and I did set up some new bills in there. So as it syncs here, it's going to pull those over eventually. Okay, there we go. So now you can see that number's gone from 7 to 10 because I just had 3 payables imported here. So it tells me that. And then in order to access them, I just click this view button. It brings me into my payables box here. And now I just simply select which bills on the list here I want to pay today. So if it's the whole list I want to pay, I can select the whole list. If there's just a few, then I select the ones that I actually want to pay. So here's the 3 that just came over. I'm going to pay those today. And then, you know, maybe I'll grab a couple from previous day as well. So click add to order. And so this is now going to set up a payment order for me. And so you can see my 5 invoices that I just selected are all here. I've got, and you'll notice a couple of things about this order. So 3 different currencies involved here. I've got a wire, I've got ACH, I've got online bill payments. So 3 different payment types, different suppliers, different due dates, all these things. No need for separate orders. They can all go out together. I can go to my Actions tab here if I need to view the invoice. So if I had the image of the invoice in my QuickBooks system as well, I can click on View Invoice, and it's going to be there for me. So we bring that over as well. There's no need to flip back and forth between the 2 platforms. I can also change the payment method being used if I want to. So each supplier is going to have a default method attached to them, but some of them may very well accept multiple forms of payment. So even though, you know, maybe I pay these guys by online bill payment most of the time, today I want to pay by EFT. So I click edit. It's going to give me the drop-down menu here of everything this particular supplier accepts, and I can change that if I want. So maybe I'll pay by EFT today. Change it. It's also going to bring the due dates over from my accounting platform for me, so there's no question as to when things are due. And then one other thing I'll point out here is this remittance notice column. So every transaction we process has a detailed remittance file that's created with it, and that gets sent out by email automatically to the buyer, and it'll also go to the supplier at the other end. And you can actually customize and manipulate the information in that remittance file if you need to. So if there's any sort of unique information that needs to go into any of these particular payments, I can just go edit again, and it'll open up this field for me, and if maybe it's an invoice number or, you know, a warehouse code, or who knows what it is, but if there's something I need to put in there, I can. There's an unlimited number of characters in that field, so you can, if it's a big long note you need to write to somebody, you can do that. So you can do that for each individual one if there's information that needs to go in there. Once I'm comfortable with everything I need to pay here today, then I save and continue. And now the next screen is going to ask me about how I actually want to fund this order. So again, back to what I was talking earlier about breaking apart funding and disbursement, the first screen was all about who am I paying and how are we dispersing the funds to them, but nothing about where am I actually bringing this money from. This screen is all about how am I going to fund these payments. So again, it's going to summarize at the top for me what's required from a currency standpoint. I just simply start funding here. So I'll start with the Canadian dollar stuff. And I mean, it's not a lot of money I need here. I could pull it from one single account, but just to show you the functionality. So I'll take, you know, 400 from this checking account, confirm. It'll adjust that number at the top for me. And then maybe I'll take a couple hundred from my Visa card. Add that, and then I'll take the rest of that from my WayPay account. I've got some money in there. So 200, you notice I put 248. It won't let me overfund here. It's going to adjust it to the proper amount for me. So there, now my Canadian portion's funded, and I used 2 different bank accounts and a credit card to fund that $847. So now I just need to fund the US dollar and the euro portion here. So US dollar, I've got money in my US dollar account here. It makes sense for me to use that, but I'll just pull it from a Canadian account so I can show you the foreign exchange capability here. So I need 23.50 in US dollars. It's going to instantly recognize that I need exchange here from a Canadian account. So it's going to give me a live exchange rate. These are, pardon me, live spot rates that refresh every 30 seconds. I mentioned before, extremely competitive with our exchange. We're not a foreign exchange business. This isn't where we look to generate our revenue. So we keep our exchange very, very low. Our customers find that when comparing with their bank or whatever third-party service they're using, we're typically coming in anywhere from kind of 50 to upwards of 200 basis points lower than what they're being offered elsewhere. So I urge you to check out our foreign exchange rates if you do have that as part of your business. And then it's also going to tell me exactly what it's costing me in Canadian dollars out of my Canadian account here. So I confirm that. And then the euro portion, maybe I take that from my US dollar account. And again, it's going to do the exchange from US dollars to euros for me. As I mentioned before, we've got exchange available in over 100 different currencies. So you'd be hard pressed to find one we don't have. I confirm that. And now my entire order is funded. I get a big check mark. And then the last thing to do is select my processing date. So it assumes I want to do this today, but if I do want to future date this for any reason, I can set it out as far into the future as I want to for whatever reason. I'll just leave it at today's date and save and continue. And so now the system knows who we're paying, how we're sending the funds, and where we're getting the funds from. It can confirm for me the payment date for each of these invoices and suppliers. So back to my conversation about speed of pay, there's never going to be any guessing game or guesswork as to when things are going to be paid. You can actually see a couple of these have been sitting around too long. They're going to be paid after their due date. So it will line up the due date again against the payment date for me. So that if I do have a situation like this and I want to go back and change it so I can get the money there faster, then I can do that. But anyway, so assuming I'm okay with this, I click continue. And the last thing is just a summary screen. It's going to break down all of the fees associated with this order for me. As we look at this screen, please don't pay too much attention to the actual dollars and cents here. They're not necessarily representative of what you would pay. This is just our demo environment. But you can see here, it's breaking down all of the individual transactions here. So I had 2 wires, 2 ACH, and an EFT. It breaks down the cost on each of those. Again, these aren't necessarily accurate numbers. The funding details here. So there's my exchange rates again and what the exchange is costing me. And then any other taxes and fees associated to the order. So when I talk about being able to use credit card where it's not accepted, if you do choose to do that, there is a service fee that comes with it. Again, this is not necessarily representative of what that fee would be, but there is a fee that comes with that. So any fees associated with the order will be here, along with the taxes at the end. It keeps this as a separate transaction, the fee portion. So it's asking me how would I like to pay for the fees. Again, I have access to all my different accounts. Maybe I'll put this on my MasterCard, and I'm finished. I save and continue, and that's the end of the order. So the last thing to do is click submit order here, but I'll get to that in a second. So you can see there, I mean, I stopped to sort of explain some things along the way, but that was 5 different invoices. It could have very easily been 500 invoices, all different payment types, 3 different currencies, different parts of the world, all going out as part of the same order. And if I had not stopped to explain things along the way there, that would have taken me probably about 30 seconds to make my way through those 4 or 5 screens there. So a very efficient process and very simple and user-friendly process to get all of those different payment types out at the same time. Okay, so now that we're here at the end, this is where we get to sort of approval workflow. So I talked earlier about being able to automate that process as well. So you can see here, I've got to submit my order, but it could be that I'm somebody that's in here that doesn't actually have approval authority for these payments. And so you can add as many different users to this profile as you like. You can set very specific permission rules and levels around every different user and different payment types within the business. So as you can see here, it says that if I don't have approval authority, when I submit my order, it will be sent for approval to the appropriate people. So, and how that happens, so an email would go out to whoever's been designated as an approver, and within that email, they have two options. So there's actually a button right within the email. If they know what the payment is and they're okay with it, they can approve it right within the email body. Or there's a second button if they need to go in and take a look at it before they sign off on it, then they can do that as well. And I want to show you very quickly what that looks like. So if I go to my settings wheel up here and I go to manage users, this is where I can add additional users if I want to. So we've already got 3 on this account. If I want to add somebody else, I just click add user. It will prompt me for their contact information. I put that in there, and it will send them an email inviting them to come in and create their password. As I do this, I can set 2 very general permission levels here. So data entry only or admin level access. So very general user levels there. But then once a user is actually in here and signed up, I can go to create and edit approvals. And this is where you can get very specific with things. So if I go add a new approval rule, this is where I can start to, do whatever I want, basically. So maybe for payments from $0 to $5,000, we have one set of rules at this business. And excuse me. So I've got my 3 users here who can approve. So maybe all 3 of these guys are approved to authorize payments. I need a minimum of 2 of those people to sign off. And of those 2 approvals, let's say Mrs. Important is a mandatory approver. So I've got 3 people that have been given approval authority. I need a minimum of 2 of them to sign off before the payment goes out. And of those 2 approvals, one of them has to be Mrs. Important. So as you can see, I can get very specific with this. And so then that's one rule for 0 to 5,000. I can set another set of rules for 5,000 to 10,000 and another set for 10 to 20 and so on and so forth. So you can get very specific with the approval process here. And then once these rules are in here, as I said, it becomes a very simple process where you just get the notice by email and you go in and you sign off. And so no more chasing people around for signatures on checks. No more having to sit down and sign a pile of checks at the end of the week or month or whatever it is. And of course, a lot of times this becomes difficult. People are out of the office, they're traveling, whatever it is. There's meetings out of the office, and you can't get those signatures when you need them. So being able to automate that process is a big time saver. Okay, so that's the approval processes. And so that kind of covers the payment process. There's a couple of other very quick things that I just want to point out here, and then I'll open it up for questions. So I talked about when we import the payments over from the accounting software, we also import the supplier information. So if I go to manage suppliers here, this is where it'll keep a list of my vendor information as it pulls it over from QuickBooks or whatever it is I'm using. So this happens the first time I pay somebody, and then it's going to obviously be here going forward for me. So, and then you can see here, it's going to show me each individual payment type that's accepted for each supplier. This could be information that you already had in the accounting platform. It could be information that we've shared to our platform. We've got a database of over, I think it's 300,000 suppliers in here now. So we'll share information with you if we have it. And then lastly, you can edit this. So if you want to add something to one of these profiles, you can very easily do that. So if I just open this up with the edit button and I go to my payment method tab, then I can add a new payment method here if I want to. I select the currency. I talked before about all the different currencies that are available. You can see them there. But I select the currency, I select the payment method that I want to send, and it will prompt me for the proper information for that payment method. So put in the wire information. It's that simple, and I hit set or save, and then that'll be attached to this profile. You can see you can also set a preferred, even though the supplier right now has 3 different methods of payment they accept. I've got EFT selected as the preferred method. So each time I set up payment, it'll default to that method, and then I can change it if I want to. Okay, and similarly, if I need to update the supplier's contact information, I can do that here as well. So that's kind of a nice, easy place where you can keep all of your supplier info in a nice, tidy spot and see all of that together. The other thing that I'll point out here, so I talked about before, some of the barriers in moving to electronic payment being, having to gather the information to do that from all the different suppliers. Our platform will actually help with that. So if I need, I've got one here in my attention needed box, so I don't have enough information for this supplier in order to complete payment. So it's Canadian, it's going to be Canadian dollars. And if I don't have sufficient information to choose one of these payment types and be able to fill in the information, so if I choose direct deposit, it wants the banking information. If I don't have that, and if I choose check, it wants an address, maybe I don't even have an address for this supplier, then I can have the platform request it for me. So just clear that out of there. Select the supplier, and then I've got this mail icon right here. If I click this icon, it's going to automatically email the supplier and request them to come in and provide their payment information. And this is what that email looks like, basically. So it says, hey, company ABC is trying to make a payment to you through the WayPay platform. In order to do that, we need some payment information. Please click here and provide that for us. They can simply click on that link. It brings them into our supplier portal, and they can very securely enter in their information and create their own supplier profile within our platform without having to pass that information to anybody else, which some people are reluctant to do. Now, some people may receive this email and say, who the heck is WayPay? I'm not giving my banking information to a company I don't know. And certainly, that's reality, and it may happen. But what we're finding actually is that the engagement rate on the other end is actually somewhere in the neighborhood of about 80%. So we're having about an 80% success rate in the suppliers we're reaching out to in them coming in to complete this information. And so, it might not happen without them picking up the phone and calling WayPay or calling, whoever the business is to verify that this is legit. But in the end, they will click through and provide the information. So in having that set up for you and being able to use this function, it saves whether it's the business owner or the accounts payable person or whoever it is within the business is tasked with these things, having to sit down and call all these people and try and fight for all this information. You can just gather electronically through the platform for you. And I can do that en masse too. So if I need information for my entire supplier list, I can select the whole list at once, click that icon, and it will email my entire list all at once for me and request that information. So it really is a simple thing. Okay, so that's suppliers. And the very last thing I'll speak about quickly here is just reporting. So I talked about the remittance files that are created with each transaction. So that's obviously in place. It goes out by email automatically with every payment. But in addition to that, we do have reporting available within the platform here. And so first off, I talked about, once we complete payment, we'll actually feed the information back into the accounting platform and reconcile all that stuff for you. So the reconciliation reporting is basically automated. But if there is additional reporting you need, you can go under payments here and go to payments report. And this is where every order that's ever run through the account will be housed. And so there's not a lot here in my demo environment, but over time, this list would grow, obviously, and it would be a very, very busy page. This information will stay here forever. It doesn't ever disappear after a certain amount of time. And you can sort through this any which way you want. So you can get very specific with this. If you need to look back on a specific order ID, you can do that. You can put a date range to it, obviously. I can sort this list by a specific supplier if I want to, or by where I'm at in the payment process, whether it's completed or in progress or scheduled or what have you. So I can get very specific with my sorting here and pull up detailed reporting on every order that's gone through the platform. So if you ever need to look back to help reconcile or help with an audit or whatever it might be, the information is here. And you can extract files out of here if you need to take the information with you and have it to take somewhere else. You can extract CSV files and so forth. So full reporting available here between this and the remittance files that are sent to you with each transaction. We've sort of got you covered from a reporting standpoint. Okay, so there's a lot more sort of little nitty-gritty things that I could get into here, detailed stuff, but just in the interest of time, I'm going to end it there. That's sort of the high-level gist of how the platform works. So with that said, let me just flip back over to my presentation here. And I do want to open this up for questions, but just very quickly, just to talk about pricing. So I know that's going to be one of the questions anyway, so let me address it now before we get into the rest of the questions. And we do come with an offer for you here today as well. So you see on the left side of the screen, we're prepared to give you 2 months free on the platform to check it out and send all your payments for free. But our standard pricing is, and again, we're giving you a discounted rate here. So it's typically $89.95. And what you get for that monthly price is all of your domestic electronic payments for free. So all of your EFTs and online bill payments and anything electronic you're sending within Canada, that's free and unlimited. CRA payments included within that. And also cross-border and international payments. So if you have ACH or wires that are going across the borders, if you're using our platform for foreign exchange, we will also include those fees for free as well. So you could legitimately be getting all of your payments for free, truly for free for the first 2 months, and then going forward for $59.95, you're getting everything included for free underneath that. So $60 a month, and that basically covers all of your fees. So if you have any type of sort of payment volume at all throughout the month, then this would certainly ring as attractive to you, I think, compared to what the banks typically charge for payment fees. If you're a business that is truly a very small business and you don't have a lot of payments throughout the month, and even a $59.95 per month would be a little bit steep for you, we do have other options available. We have a basic pay-as-you-go plan where there's no monthly fee involved and you just pay per transaction. So, I mean, this premium package with the monthly fee and everything included underneath it is certainly of far greater value to anybody that has a little bit more payment activity throughout the month, but certainly we do have other options for those of you that have smaller businesses. So please keep that in mind. Okay, and that is basically it. So I'm happy to open it up now for questions, whether they be for myself or for Trista in the chamber. Yeah, the floor is yours. So please feel free.
Perfect. So Paula's got a question here. Does WayPay integrate with Wave accounting?
We do not integrate with Wave as of yet. Okay. That's not to say we won't down the road, but Wave is not on the list yet, unfortunately. Okay,
no worries. Thanks for asking that question, Paula. And if anyone else has any other questions, if you
sorry, Trista, I'm just gonna, if I could just follow on to that with one quick point. So the one thing I don't think I did mention as I go through this, and this raises the point. So if you happen to be working with an accounting platform that we don't integrate with, you can certainly still take advantage of this platform and all the great benefits that come from automating the payments. The only thing you lose out on really is that direct integration. So instead of having that automatic sync where we just pull the information over, it's as simple as extracting a file out of your, say, Wave platform and uploading that file into the WayPay platform. So there's that kind of one extra step, but it is still, basically a 95% automated process for you, as opposed to doing everything, disjointed and manually the way you've been doing it in the past. So you can use this platform without plugging into your accounting platform if you want to.
Okay, well, that's amazing. That's great information. So I have a question, which is when you pay with a credit card, as you showed us, you can pay like a partial bit and then some from your account or all from your credit card. Are those transactions treated as cash advances?
No, great question. So, and actually that's a fairly common question that we do get. So the answer So we have contracts in place with all the credit card companies that allow us to actually transact as a merchant. So when you're using your card, you're able to collect your rewards points as you would with any other transaction, and get your your 20, 30, 40 days to pay. So there's nothing cash advance related to it at all.
Okay, that's amazing. And I don't see any other questions here. So I have one more question,
Sure.
which is about when you pay, like, how do you register like online billers like CRA or utility companies? So like if I get my bill online, like through my email or whatever, and I never get a printed bill,
Yep.
like how does that work?
So basically, anybody, any company, so whether it be the CRA or Rogers or Bell or one of your utility companies or anybody else that's set up for online billing or online payments like that, you can pay them directly through our site exactly the same way you would through your own bank account, essentially. So the process that I just showed you, so in setting up the payment order, and I think the 5 invoices that I paid there today were all wire and ACH, and I switched that one over to EFT. But if you remember, I changed that from online bill payment. So that one invoice was already set up for online bill. So again, it just becomes another invoice as part of my payment order, and you indicate online biller, and we'll pay it that way for you. So we'll pull money from your bank account or your credit card or wherever it is you've told us to pull the money from, and then we will pay them via the online system the way they always get paid. So in setting that profile up in the system, it's as simple as, so I mean, if you're setting up somebody for EFT, then we have to enter in the banking information and all of that. If you're setting up for online billing, generally it's just an account number. So we need to know who the vendor is, and then the account number associated to that vendor, and you plug that in and your profile set up, and away you go.
Perfect. All right. Well, it seems like we have no more questions from our friends who have joined us. So I want to say a huge thank you to you, Paul, for coming and sharing this awesome product with us. I do hope that it's going to help our members at the CanWCC, but also that it's going to help women-owned businesses everywhere save money, which we know is an important thing. So just as a final thank you to everyone who was here today, and for anyone watching this recording later, if you want to learn more about WayPay, visit their website at waypay.ca. And to learn more about us or to become a member, partner, or sponsor, visit our website at canwcc.ca. And don't forget that members do get that very, very great discount. Plus, you also get to to check it out at a discounted rate to start with. So that's perfect. So join up to both things. And thank you again, Paul. And we look forward to hearing more from you guys in the future.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me in today, and thanks to everybody for joining. Yeah, if you do have any additional questions or you'd like any more information, you did see our contact info there. Feel free to reach out anytime. I'm happy to talk to you.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.